Question 78. A media company stored its video files in Amazon S3. During the first couple months, the videos were frequently accessed. Then they were only fetched once in a while and only had to retrieve 12 hours after the request was made. Files should be stored for at least a decade. What is the most cost-effective way to store objects after 180 days? And the options are A. Amazon S3 Glacier, B. Amazon S3 One Zone Infrequently Accessed, C. Amazon S3 Glacier Deep Archive, D. Amazon S3 Standard Infrequently Accessed. And the correct answer is option C. Amazon S3 Glacier Deep Archive. Explanation. Amazon S3 Glacier Deep Archive is the most cost-effective object storage to implement because the information will be rarely accessed. And when it is accessed, its retrieval period will not be instant. Option A is incorrect because the information might not be referred to again after it was created. Amazon S3 Glacier is appropriate to a certain degree but not the most cost-effective option. The scenario in this question looking for the most cost-effective method. Option B is incorrect because Amazon S3 One Zone Infrequently Accessed is suitable for information that warrants a short retrieval time. In this scenario, a short retrieval time is not critical. Option D is incorrect because Amazon S3 Standard Infrequently Accessed is not a cost-effective option since the list of songs will only be relevant once and then rarely accessed thereafter. Next question. Which AWS feature allows you to securely and quickly transfer files between your client and Amazon S3 bucket? And the options are A. File transfer, B. HTTP transfer, C. S3 acceleration, D. Amazon S3 transfer acceleration. And the correct answer is option D. Amazon S3 transfer acceleration. Explanation. Amazon S3 transfer acceleration enables fast, easy, and secure transfer of files over long distances between a client and an S3 bucket. Transfer acceleration takes advantage of Amazon CloudFront's globally distributed edge locations. As the data arrives at an edge location, data is routed to Amazon S3 over an optimized network path. Option A, B, and C are incorrect. These features deal with transferring data but not between clients and S3 buckets, and they don't provide fast data transfers. Next question. A company has hired you as an AWS architect. They need to host an application on EC2 instances. The infrastructure needs to be scalable and fault-tolerant as well. Which of the following should be included in the design? Select two options. And the options are A. AWS Auto-Scaling, B. Amazon Guard Duty, C. Elastic Load Balancing, D. Amazon CloudWatch. And the correct answer is option A. AWS Auto-Scaling and C. Elastic Load Balancing. Explanation. You can automatically increase the size of your auto-scaling group when demand goes up and decrease it when traffic goes down. As the auto-scaling group adds and removes EC2 instances, you must ensure that the traffic for your application is distributed across all of your EC2 instances. The Elastic Load Balancing service automatically routes incoming web traffic across a number of EC2 instances. You can improve the scalability and fault tolerance with ELB as it reroutes the traffic to healthily instances and also accommodate auto-scaling with ELB. Option B is incorrect. Amazon Guard Duty is a threat detection service that continuously monitors for malicious activity and unauthorized behavior. Option D is incorrect. CloudWatch is a monitoring service. Next question. You are working on migrating on-premises system to the AWS infrastructure. The on-premises systems have several processes that have to be executed manually. You want to use a serverless solution and it needs an AWS resource that can manage scripts, packages, and specific app code while being stored in the Amazon S3 environment. What AWS service can meet these requirements? And the options are A. AWS CloudWatch, B. AWS Code Deploy, C. AWS code commit, D. AWS EC2, and the correct answer is option B, AWS code deploy. Explanation. AWS Code Deploy is an AWS service that gives you the ability to automate manual processes straight into Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud instances using Lambda functions and AWS Elastic Container Service. AWS Code Deploy gives you a serverless platform that allows you to promote or automate into hundreds and even thousands of EC2 instances. This service also offers the ability to stop and roll back deployments if needed. You can also use this service while storing your application information, scripts, packages, web config files, and other code in GitHub repositories, Bitbucket repositories, and even Amazon Simple Storage Service S3. AWS Code Commit is not correct. AWS Code Commit is a secure, highly scalable, managed source control service that hosts private Git repositories. It makes it easy for teams to securely collaborate on code, with contributions encrypted in transit and at rest. Amazon CloudWatch is a standard tool for monitoring AWS cloud service systems. This cloud resource gives you the ability to track and collect performance metrics, such as monitoring logs and setting alarms, and proactively reacts to certain alarms generated by the service. This tool is not directly associated with code deployments. Using specific inputs such as web config files and other scripts to Amazon S3. AWS EC2 is an AWS component that creates compute capacity within the AWS cloud infrastructure. This component is not used as a serverless solution. Next question. A website for an international sport governing body would like to serve its content to viewers around the world in their own language. Which of the following services uses geolocation headers to provide location-based web personalization? And the options are A. Amazon CloudFront, B. Amazon EC2 instance, C. Amazon Light Sail, D. Amazon Route 53, and the correct answer is option A. Amazon CloudFront. Explanation. Amazon CloudFront supports country-level location-based web content personalization with a feature called geolocation headers. You can configure CloudFront to add additional geolocation headers that provide more granularity in your caching and origin request policies. The new headers give you more granular control of cache behavior and your origin access to the viewer's country name, region, city, postal code, latitude, and longitude, all based on the viewer's IP address. Option B is incorrect because EC2 is just a distractor not suitable for routing and delivery. Option C is incorrect because Amazon Light Sail will primarily allow for developing, deploying, and hosting websites and web applications. The service will not meet the requirements of this scenario. Option D is incorrect because the geolocation routing policy of Route 53 allows different resources to serve content based of the origin on the request. Route 53 does not use geolocation headers. Next question. You have a mission-critical application that must be globally available at all times. Also, data needs to be kept close to the user in order to deliver low-latency static and dynamic content. Which of the following deployment methods would you choose in this situation? And the options are A. Deployment to multiple edge locations, B. Deployment to multiple availability zones, C. Deployment to multiple data centers, D. Deployment to multiple regions. And the correct answer is option D. Deployment to multiple regions. Explanation. Regions represent different geographical locations and are suitable for hosting your application across multiple regions for disaster recovery. Multi-region application architecture helps deliver low latency by making it possible to keep data close to users, even when those users are distributed all over the world. Option A is incorrect. Edge locations are used for static content delivery, part of AWS CDN service. Static content is replicated to those locations in order to reduce latency for delivery. There is no compute going on at edge locations, just storage of data. AWS DNS servers also sit in edge locations. Option B is incorrect. Availability zones are data centers within a region. Multi-AZ deployment cannot provide global availability and low latency content globally. Option C is incorrect. AWS don't have data center concept, instead it uses availability zones. Next question. Which of the following can be used to protect against DDoS attacks? Select two options. And the options are A. AWS Guard Duty, B. AWS Inspector, C. AWS Shield, D. AWS Shield Advanced. And the correct answer is option C. AWS Shield and D. AWS Shield Advanced. Explanation. AWS Shield. All AWS customers benefit from the automatic protections of AWS Shield standard at no additional charge. AWS Shield standard defends against the most common, frequently occurring network and transport layer DDoS attacks that target your website or applications. AWS Shield Advanced for higher levels of protection against attacks targeting your web applications running on Amazon EC2, Elastic Load Balancing ELB, CloudFront, and Route 53 resources. You can subscribe to AWS Shield Advanced. AWS Shield Advanced provides expanded DDoS attack protection for these resources. Option A is incorrect. Guard Duty cannot be used for DDoS prevention. Amazon Guard Duty is a threat detection service that continuously monitors your AWS accounts and workloads for malicious activity and delivers detailed security findings for visibility and remediation. Option B is incorrect. Amazon Inspector is an automated vulnerability management service that continually scans AWS workloads for software vulnerabilities and unintended network exposure. Next question. Which of the following is a serverless compute offering from AWS? And the options are A. AWS EC2, B. AWS Lambda, C. AWS SNS, D. AWS SQS. And the correct answer is option B. AWS Lambda. Explanation. AWS Lambda is a compute service that lets you run code without provisioning or managing servers. AWS Lambda executes your code only when needed and scales automatically, from a few requests per day to 1,000 per second. None of the other options are serverless. Next question. Which of the following are the recommended resources to be deployed in the Amazon VPC private subnet? And the options are A. NAT gateways, B. Bastion host, C. Database servers, D. Internet gateways. And the correct answer is option C. Database servers. Explanation. As database servers contain confidential information, so for a security perspective, it should be deployed in a private subnet. Amazon Virtual Private Cloud Amazon VPC enables the user to launch AWS resources into a virtual network that a user has defined. Option A is incorrect because NAT devices allow instances in private subnets to connect to the internet, other VPCs, or on-premises networks. It is deployed in a public subnet. Option B is incorrect because Bastion host is a server whose purpose is to provide access to a private network from an external network such as the internet. It is deployed in a public subnet. Option D is incorrect because an internet gateway is a horizontally scaled, redundant and highly available VPC component that allows communication between your VPC and the internet. Next question. A web application deployed in two geographically separate locations. One of the locations is experiencing an outage. In this scenario, what is the most appropriate Route 53 routing policy? And the options are A. Geolocation routing policy, B. Weighted routing policy, C. Failover routing policy, D. Latency-based routing policy. And the correct answer is option C. Failover routing policy. Explanation. Failover routing policy is the most appropriate routing policy to implement because it will make it possible for traffic to be routed to the resource in good health and not to the one experiencing poor response times. Several instances can be configured. Option A is incorrect because the geolocation routing policy is essential when traffic to the hosted resources is routed according to its originating source address. Option B is incorrect because a weighted routing policy can distribute request traffic amongst resources, but in this scenario, it would be undesirable and cumbersome to manually set weights preferences each time any resource is unhealthy. This will not be the most appropriate routing policy. Option D is incorrect because latency-based routing policy allows for queries to be served by the resources with the shortest response times to the user's location. The routing policy does not give the required functionality in this scenario. Next question. How do you define an AWS region? And the options are A. It is a collection of edge locations. B. It is a collection of compute capacity. C. It is a geographical area divided into availability zones. D. It is the same as an availability zone. And the correct answer is option C. It is a geographical area divided into availability zones. Explanation. A region is a geographical area divided into availability zones. Each region contains at least 2 availability zones. Next question. Which security aspects of AWS are the customer responsibility? Select 4 options. And the options are A. Security group and ACL access control list settings. B. Decommissioning storage devices. C. Patch management on the EC2 instances operating system. D. Lifecycle management of IAM credentials. E. Controlling physical access to compute resources. F. Encryption of EBS elastic block volumes. And the correct options are A. Security group and ACL settings. C. Patch management on the EC2 instances operating system. D. Lifecycle management of IAM credentials. And option F. Encryption of EBS elastic block storage volumes. Explanation. Security and compliance is a shared responsibility between AWS and the customer. Below is the snapshot of the AWS shared responsibility model. Next question. Which of the following can be used to manage identities in AWS? And the options are A. AWS config. B. AWS IAM. C. AWS Trusted Advisor. D. AWS Cognito. And the correct answer is option B. AWS IAM. Explanation. AWS Identity and Access Management provides fine-grained access control across all of AWS. With IAM, you can specify who can access which services and resources, and under which conditions. With IAM policies, you manage permissions to your workforce and systems to ensure least privilege permissions. IAM is an AWS service that is offered at no additional charge. Option A is incorrect. AWS Config is a service that enables you to assess, audit, and evaluate the configurations of your AWS resources. Config continuously monitors and records your AWS resource configurations and allows you to automate the evaluation of recorded configurations against desired configurations. Option C is incorrect. Amazon Inspector is an automated vulnerability management service that continually scans AWS workloads for software vulnerabilities and unintended network exposure. Option D is incorrect. Amazon Cognito lets you add user sign-up and authentication to your mobile and web apps. Amazon Cognito also enables you to authenticate users through an external identity provider and provides temporary security credentials to access your app's backend resources in AWS. Cognito cannot manage identities with AWS. It is primarily used as an external authentication mechanism. Next question. Your company has a web application running on Amazon EC2 instances. Unfortunately, the performance of the application deteriorated when website traffic increased. It appears that the web tier is the bottleneck. Your company decides to re-engineer the application by decoupling the web tier components from the backend systems. Which AWS service is capable of supporting the application redesign? And the options are A. AWS Auto Scaling. B. AWS Elastic Load Balancing. C. Amazon SQS. D. Amazon Kinesis Streams. And the correct answer is option C. Amazon SQS. Explanation. Amazon SQS implements messaging that is a typical integration pattern to decouple application components. Amazon Simple Queue service is a fully managed message queuing service that enables you to decouple and scale microservices, distributed systems, and serverless applications. SQS eliminates the complexity and overhead associated with managing and operating message-oriented middleware and empowers developers to focus on differentiating work. Option A is incorrect because it is not a service for decoupling use case. AWS auto-scaling adjusts the capacity to maintain performance, leaving unchanged the application design. Option B is incorrect because AWS ELB is a service to distribute the workload across EC2 instance, not a service to support application refactoring or re-engineering. Option D is incorrect because it is a streaming service not suitable for the scenario. Thank you for watching this video. Buy our AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner CLF-C01 premium questions with 50% off. Check link in the description.